$200,000 plus father-to-be, a man with impeccable posture, Mr. Ben Bradshaw.
Sit down is something that is a very important topic to me, personally, because when we got into the business, you know, sit downs is like, that's really, we did spa parties at night to grow your business exponentially, but the time during the day that we had, we just did, you know, everyone has lunch breaks, you know, everyone has holes in their schedule. So we just filled that time with booking sit downs with them. You know, it was just basically a chance for us to get with them and demo products and show them the deal. At that time, they didn't have this form here, which is what we gave you guys tonight. How many of you guys have not seen this yet? Everyone seen it? Okay, good. So this literally is, it's like our Messiah for right now. It's something that we should be using for Mission 90. You guys are running for Mission 90, right? I don't know anyone that's not. Yeah. So it's almost like the halfway point, and we have some announcements for Mission 90 as well coming up within the next couple weeks. But I'm going to go over tonight as far as like how to do an actual sit-down presentation. Maybe even maybe we'll even role play and do them. But one of the things too is I want to talk about how to close actual a presentation as well, because I know everyone's doing a lot of sit downs, which is great, but not everyone's converting. And there's a very important piece at the end that I think that some of us we're forgetting, or we're just not maximizing the actual concept. And that's, you know, it's a three-way call. Three-way calls are how we built the business. It's not one of the steps. It's not sometime that we'll do it. It's every single time you do a three-way call, you will see exponential results on your actual presentations. I mean, it's just, you know, leaders do three-way calls at the end of their presentations. So everyone has one of these, right? Okay, cool. So I'm going to run through it real quick, and then what I'd like to do is maybe do a role play, you know, where people are actually doing the presentation. So if you allow me to run through the points real quick, and then maybe not do an actual presentation on it, but just run through what I would do if you guys want to take notes on it, and then we'll do a presentation where you guys can actually role play with someone in the room, right? Because role play is very, very important, you know, if you're actually doing it, because we can sit up here all day long and talk about, you know, what to do, but if you're not actually doing it, then it's going to be the first time you do it, it's going to be uncomfortable. Does that make sense? So we'll do a three-way call before we get into this as well. So when you're sitting down with someone, you know, as far as inviting them, the invitation is key. You know, how do you invite people to do a presentation, right? So if I was calling Ron, you know, to actually invite him to do, you know, to a presentation, he would have no idea why I'm inviting him. You know, but I would say, when I start the phone call, I'd say, hey, Ron, it's Ben. Listen, I only have a second. You know, I'll start off every conversation with, I only have a second. Why? Because people are attracted to people that have no time, right? You know, people don't, for the people that have, you know, there's like a fear of loss for people that have no time. You know, because we always want more of what they don't have, right? Just the way that it is. So if I said, hey, Ron, I only have a second. Hey, what are you doing tomorrow for lunch? What are you doing tomorrow for lunch? I'm open, or I'm closed, right? One or the other. Hey, I'm closed. Okay, well, what about Thursday? What about Friday, right? So you're gonna keep basically asking him until he gives you a date. The reason why, you know, Lauren and I have like such a high like show up ratio and sign up ratio, and what we do is because we don't get off the phone until people give us a date, whether it's tomorrow, Thursday, or Friday, or Saturday, whatever. You know, we always book our calendar, right? So if he said, I'm open, why? I'd say, listen, man, like I got a project I'm working on. I think it's very lucrative. I think you'd be all over it. I want to take you to lunch, right? Very rarely does someone turn down like a free lunch, you know, right? It's just the way that it is. So I'm working on a project. I think it's very lucrative. I think you'd be all over it. What are you doing? You know, let's meet tomorrow for lunch. What works best for you? 12 o'clock? And then just book the location. Does that make sense? So I think a lot of people, aren't using and here's the thing, everyone has a lunch. So if you're showing someone the plan during lunch, it's almost impossible not to be recruiting or signing preferred customers, okay? So when I would get to him to sit down for lunch, I would just talk about what I saw with the company, whether it's I saw, the opportunity to take a company and pioneer it, open up the East Coast. I would say, I would tell them the reason why I joined the company, extra money or whatever it may be, extra time, the vision of the company, the products. Lead with whatever you saw because you don't want it to be like not genuine. You know what I mean? So you share with them why, and then you just talk about it, right? So I would create like small talk, and then make sure you guys order before you get into the presentation. The reason is because if you don't order before you get into the presentation, it'll break it up, it'll be awkward, and then you won't be on a roll. It always happens, So I talk about the company first, right? And you guys can go through the bullet points, and if you're following along with me, just talk about the bullet points. Here's the thing about it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's very simple. You go from 1 to 2 to 3, I mean, literally. You just hammer down with it. But as you're going through these bullet points, you want to get agreement too. Always be shaking your head. Ask open-ended questions, right? So you can see that a company that's done $1 billion in retail sales is widely successful, yes? Right? And as you ask these questions, you're shaking your head, yes, they're going to agree with you. That's communication, right? So just get into it, Talk about the industry, right? How, skincare is recession-proof. Everyone's been affected by the recession, right? So if you talk about skincare having very high retention, right? Everyone uses it. Everyone gets married to their products, right? Yes? So as you go through this, I mean, there's a huge opportunity there. One thing for me, like I always bring up, if I'm talking to a guy, I'll talk about how uncomfortable it was for skincare for me. Why? Because it's probably the same thing they're thinking. And if you don't bring it up, at the end, you're going to get that objection, right? So if you try to, take care of the objection up front, you won't get it at the end. So also know your actual audience, who you're talking to, right? As far as like what their hot buttons might be. I mean, we know our friends. Most of them have a lack of money, right? But if they don't, they have a lack of time, Maybe it's both, right? Which is just a bad idea. It's a bad, something that's not very good. So talk about that. Talk about the products having instant results. At bullet point number 3, where you talk about the products, that's where I demo the products. Because that's where you get people, saying wow, right? So I demo the M4, the nail buffer, the peeling gel, right? But I also demo the thermo mask as well. Some people take the salt and oil scrub and body butter. You can do that as well. But that's getting up and taking them to the bathroom, and for me, that's weird, It might work for you. That's okay, but because it's something that they can feel with their hands. But for me, I'm not getting up from the table and taking my guests to the bathroom. It's just not, I'm not interested in that. But so demo those products. I always demo the thermo mask because it shows results right away too. And it gets people accustomed to thinking the anti-aging line, right? Which is the top seller. So I get into that. Talk about personal income, which is just retail. Retail's huge. But I give them the example of the nail kit, of the markup there. So that's where I talk about how, the company doesn't have website fees. So if someone went to your website, you don't have to actually deliver the product. It ships directly to the consumer. Because people don't, a lot of people are they're accustomed to the traditional ways of doing MLM, which is them actually delivering the product, So I talk about how there's no website fees. It ships right to the consumer. Talk about the difference from wholesale and retail, and how, it's a huge markup and you actually can get the difference. For team commissions, I always tell people that's my favorite. I talk to them about, how we build a left team and a right team. Because with Secret, it's a new age compensation plan. So it's not like you have to build all these different teams. You have to go wide and, I always talk about just building a left team and a right team. Everyone knows two people that would be interested, right? So I talk about, the exponential growth, 2 getting 2s, 4, 8, 16, and then just give them the examples. 10 agents with 5 PCs each, on one team, 20 agents with 5 PCs on the other teams, $450 a month in residual income. Could you see what could you do with an extra $450 a month in residual income? Ask them that question, right? So you're getting them thinking what they could do with the extra money. And then talk about, taking it to the next level, 450 or 4,500 and then 45,000, right? So the reason why I would do something like that is because you're getting them thinking about what they could do with extra money, all within just a part-time, right? And then I tell them about the cutoff at 25,000 a week, and I'm like, could you see yourself ever cutting someone off at 25,000 a week, 1.2 million a year? Ha ha ha, right? They laugh, right? You ever cut me off there? You don't have to call me. Just do it. Talk about check match. Check match is my favorite way. Why? Because you're incentivized to bring people on. And this is where people are thinking maybe like typically you're just going to sign them up and just let them go. But check match ensures that you don't. Why? Because you're incentivized financially to work with them and because you get a percentage of their check. I always explain that it starts at the bronze level because you don't want them thinking that right when they come on board they're going to get that, because they're not, unless they come on board with a special agent package, right? So, but I don't say that right there, talk about the special agent package, because they're not sold on anything yet. I would talk about just the bronze level, okay? And talk about 4 generations. So I always give examples, like maybe if you were bringing on Ron, right? And then Ron knows, the server, who knows the bartender, who knows, the manager, right? So that would be different generations. So give examples and just talk about the impact of what that could actually be, okay? Preferred customers. I always explain the preferred customer, program, where why you prefer customers. So I always talk about how we actually deliver on the promise of direct sales, which is how, like, let's say, for example, you had a shirt, like Ron's shirt, for example. If I could save him 50% off and a company would pay me to actually sell that shirt to him, I would feel good about it because I'm actually giving him a hookup and the company's paying me for doing so, right? I talk about how, most companies don't do that anymore. They don't save people money because it's not about the product, it's about the compensation. With us, it's about preferred customers. I talk about how 2/3 of our actual, monthly consumers are just customers, okay? So because it gets people thinking about customers. I hit all the bullet points. This is very, very simple if you hit all the bullet points, right? Number 8 is the Superstar program. So it just talks about how you can get a free iPad within 28 days. Most people, if they don't have an iPad, or maybe they do, but they want to give one away or whatever it might be, talk about the $250 bonus as well, okay? So think about in your first 28 days, if you're getting someone $500 to $750 through hitting Superstar, that's a roadmap that people want to follow. So the performance bonuses. I go through the performance bonuses and, how much money that is extra. Talk about how it pays out immediately, how we pay people for performing. And then, as far as training, the support that you get, the training that's in place, like tonight, right? Talk about the platform, I talk about how everything's in place. And then I tell people how to get started, There's 3 ways to get started with our company. Go through the packages. Most people, whether you start at the special agent or you start at the basic, for me personally, I started the basic because I want to build up why people should actually start at the special agent, right? So I always talk about the basic, and I'm like, it's $380 worth of retail product for $150. Now, this is mostly, this actual package here would be for people that want to, maybe just dip their toe in. They're not really interested. It's maybe for consumption by yourself, okay? And I tell people that typically I don't let people get started with a basic because I know that, if I want you to achieve what you want, you're going to have to commit just like I'm committing. Does that make sense? Talk about the premium. I tell people that it is the most popular package. And then I reiterate the Superstar program. You're Superstar eligible by getting involved with this package. It's almost $1,400 worth of product for $550. This is most popular. It'll last you about 3 to 6 months of doing spa parties, okay? So, but then I go to the special agent package, and I'll say, listen, this is where the people that want to make the most money. The people that get this kit actually make the most money. It's almost $4,000 worth of product. It's the entire product line. It'll last you about a year of doing spa parties. But what it does the most, not only does it give you the top seller, the anti-aging line, which is the #1 seller. Why? Because the anti-aging line is the top, That's a top seller within this industry. Everyone wants to look younger, but it's actually going to pay you as a bronze. So it's going to open up your check match right away, okay? It'll pay you as a bronze for 90 days while you get there organically, okay? So, and then I tell people, like, you know, where do you see yourself getting in? Get in where you fit in, right? So it's not like $49, right, and then you're trying to upsell them. It's like you're actually seeing them get involved and get them signed up with a kit, right? I know for Lauren and I, like, we typically don't let people come on board for just $49 in a replenishment, you know, because your time is worth more than just the actual replenishment, because you know you're not going to make money on that. Chances are they're not going to even host a spa party, right? So, but if you get them in with a kit and they see themselves vested in with this opportunity with one of the demo kits, then more than likely they're going to schedule a spa party. When should you schedule your spa party? Like 3 to 5 days, right? If that, you know? So the reason why Lauren and I, when we got started, we, you know, even in network marketing, the reason why we did what we did so fast is because we scheduled spa parties right away, right? I mean, you think about it, like when we came home from vacation, we actually scheduled a spa party for the next day. And then from the next day, we were in different living rooms. You know, there wasn't very much sleep that week, okay? So there's different demo kits. I typically won't recruit someone unless they get a premium or special agent. It's just the way that it is. But I also don't want people skipping their mortgage or their rent because they want to get involved in the opportunity. You know what I mean? Unless they're like, I mean, you can just feel people out, right? Don't upsell people that can't afford something because it just gives us a bad name. But you also want people vested. Why? Because when they're vested, they're actually going to go ahead and, you know, they'll do the deal. Does that make sense? So if people had questions, they're like, well, you know, I don't know if I have enough time. Or, you know what, I just don't have the money to start. That's where you do use the concept of feel, felt, found, right? I know how you feel. And when I came on board, I thought $1,400, man, that's a lot of money. You know, I didn't have that. You know what I mean? But I'm glad that I did now. We just found it, you know, and we started out, and when we were able to convert and make money right away, made $5,000 our first month, and take a look at where we are now, you know? And I can only imagine if I waited another month, you know, to not get started with an actual demo kit. I mean, next month's going to happen anyway. Probably going to have the same thing happen where we just had a lack of finances, you know? So maybe that's for like someone that can overcome objections right away. But maybe you would want to convert someone to actually doing a three-way call, right? I'm telling you guys, three-way calls are the name of the game. If you're not doing three-way calls, maybe sometimes it's hard to transition into a three-way call with your people. Do you guys find that? Right? So, because I know like some people in here are crushing Mission 90. Just the challenge is they're not converting because they're not doing three-way calls. Right? So, because we know that people respect people they don't know. So if like, let's say Ron was like, listen, like I see the opportunity, I just don't have money, you know? You could say, listen, I know exactly how you feel because I didn't have money either when I got involved. But I'm working with someone that, you know, maybe he can help you out with why you should, maybe he can answer that question for you. I don't know. You know, I'm not saying that you should play dumb per se, but you always want to get your actual warm market on the phone with a third party. It's almost like car sales, right? Like the car salesperson. You know, have you guys ever been on like a car lot, right? They come out and they try to be your friend, right? They try to build rapport, don't they? Tom was there today, weren't you? They try to build rapport, and then the manager comes in and hits you over the head. And they're like, here's the deal, you know? It's non-negotiable, right? So it's almost the same concept. So if you think about it, they're trying to be your friend, so I'm trying to be Ron's friend. But when he has objections, I'm going to get him on the phone with a third party, someone that I can edify, that he can actually, you know, he'll listen to. Because even though he respects me or loves me as his friend, he might not respect my business opinion. You know what I mean? Like if I told him, I was like, man, you're broke again? Like, come on, bro. You know? That's actually going to distance us versus saying, look, man, you know, I'm working with one of the top people in the actual company, someone that just likes to help people, you know. Let me get him on the phone. Maybe he can answer that question for you. Because I was the same way, and, you know, he's the one that helped me. Right? You guys ever done that before? Or you can say, you know, if you're actually working Mission 90, you could be like, look, you know, I appreciate you, you know. One of the ways that you can book the sit-down is, like, if you were like, listen, you know, I'm running for this free cruise with my company. I just have to do 90 sit-downs before a certain deadline. I'm not attached to you actually signing up, but I just got to get in front of you and present. Maybe you can help me with my presentation, right? So at the end, the three-way is, hey, listen, I got to actually check with the person that's actually, making sure that I'm doing these presentations. Is it okay if I just get them on the phone? Boom, right? So it's a different way. What's that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the three-way call there would be your third party actually has to grade you on how well you did on your three-way call. It doesn't matter how you're getting them on the phone. Just the challenge is the third party is actually going to be able to seal the deal. Does that make sense? So, and it's not like you're not being genuine. Just the challenge is there's that little hump, Like I get Curtis or I get Glenn on three-way calls for me. I use people in my organization. Why? Because I can lift them up, But I'll also mirror and match, right? So if I had like a salon owner or someone that was a hairstylist, I would use Keith, right? Does that make sense? If it was a personal trainer, I would use Glenn, If it was an IT person, I would use Tracy, right? Real estate agent, Dominic, right? Electrician, Tom. So you want to mirror and match. So what I do is I'll send out a text to 5 people, in your group. These are like people that you work with. And let them know, hey, listen, I'm going into a sit down. I'm going to need a three-way call in about an hour. Who can do it, right? So the first person that responds, that's who I'll use. Because we know that everyone's in the trenches doing the deal, doing the activity. Not everyone's going to be available at the same time. So whoever responds, that's who you use for the three-way call. Does that make sense? So if you haven't actually created that group, it would be a good idea to do so, okay? So, if I'm closing the deal, I could say things like your three-way call, the person that's the expert could say things to Ron that you could not necessarily say. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So what I'd like to do now is how many, do we know how many people are here tonight? Can we actually partner up? Can you guys pick someone, preferably someone that you don't know? Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and do some role playing for Mission 90. It's gonna be uncomfortable, I know, but this is the place where you want to fail, right? Think about it. You don't want to do it when you're out in front of your people, right? All right, so pair up with someone that you don't know. All right, so pair up with someone that you don't know. We'll do 30 minutes on this. So each person has 15 minutes to go through the presentation. All right? Make sure when you're doing this, make sure you are actually role-playing on connecting to the three-way call, okay? So you guys know what the transition is going into the three-way call, all right?